Okay, thank you, everybody. Sorry we're a few minutes late. We were in an executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and union negotiation. So we ran over a couple of minutes. I call this meeting back to order at 6:45 p.m. I got to begin with pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting, the North Reading School Committee, is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. So welcome everybody, and just on that note, I know that the state of emergency is going to be ending soon. We have to get clarification on what's going to happen going forward, but I think our intent is to try to allow public access as much as we can going forward. It just may be that, I think the real question is whether the members of the school committee all have to be in person, but I think our intention is to try to keep these going on, so if people do want to participate via remote participation, we're going to try to keep these Google Meets going forward, just so people know. Okay, we begin tonight with public input. If anybody from the public has anything they'd like to speak about that is not on the agenda, please unmute, raise your hand, wave something. Okay, hearing none, we move on to the student report. I believe we have Sophia here tonight. Sophia, welcome. I see you on here. Would you like to give your student report for us?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much. I wanted to start off by talking about just academics. With the last day of school being on Wednesday, we're really just focused on finishing this unique year on a strong foot. And without finals this year, most of my classes are really just filled with end of the year projects. And with, again, the last day of school coming, summer work is being released this week. Over the past month, AP exams have been conducted. Freshman Bio MCAS was this week. Sophomores will be returning their Chromebooks at the end of this week because they are getting new Chromebooks soon. Yesterday, juniors were recognized for academic excellence, and this award ceremony is typically held at night with parents in attendance, but again, we accommodated for this year and chose to hold the ceremony during second lunch yesterday, and the same awards were held for the sophomores and freshmen today. With graduation tomorrow, all grades are excited to watch the seniors graduate and see them accomplish great things. Also, the seniors are completing senior week, where they celebrated at prom on Monday, which was just so great to see everyone so happy and having such a great time. Another great success was the senior block party that student council helped coordinate. And just after a hard year and a half, it's amazing to see that the seniors are getting the recognition and fun that they really deserve. Our sports right now are doing great. Both boys and girls track are having a phenomenal season as they took the Cal League titles yesterday, finishing with a 14-0 combined record and a victory over Linfield. Girls tennis and boys tennis are working hard, each with a 500 season, and both have matches today. The girls team has their senior night tonight as well. The girls lacrosse team is standing right now with a 2-7 record. Boys lacrosse has a 2-8 record and had a tight 7-6 victory over Linfield yesterday. Softball has had an amazing season with a record of 10-1. They had their senior night last night where they beat Newburyport. With this victory, they claimed the Cal title. Baseball is having a strong season with an 8-5 record. Registration for fall sports has started, and with that, many sports are participating in different summer leagues, and those are going to be starting at the end of the month. Also at the end of the month, most sports are invited to train at the school with trainers from Athletic Evolution, which is a gym that typically only girls soccer and football prepare for preseason at, but we've had such great experience with them. We're including the entire North Reading sports programs, and they're going to come to the high school to help us all prepare together. Mr. Lentini's basketball camp is also being held this summer, and that's really just a great camp because it brings the whole community together, as it's for many ages and it's run by the high schoolers, so they connect with the upcoming classes and they'll get community service hours. In the arts, the district art show was released last week, and Mr. Dexter held it virtually this year via Google Slides. Maskers is the Drowsy Chaperone finished 2 weeks ago, and the new musical will be announced today. Piano, band, and jazz band had concerts last week, and parents were able to attend to those, but they're also all posted on Mrs. Keene's YouTube channel. And then for clubs, most clubs are having their last meetings this week, and many are in the process of electing new officers. NHS chose to push their induction ceremony to the fall, but a set date has not been determined, and SLAM accepted their 2021-2022 mentors this week. For student work, I did not get together like a concrete piece, but I just wanted to talk about my experience with virtual AP exams. So I last year took the APES exam, and then this year I took the English and bio. So with those, it was really great to see the just differences in the 2 years of exams during this pandemic. So last year it was only 2 questions in 40 minutes. This year was a full exam, and it just the way that all of our teachers just worked so hard this year is really great on how prepared we were for that exam, even though it was such a different setup. For instance, we had just these practice exams in the testing portal. So that test anxiety was really relieved because we knew exactly what to expect. And then in addition to that, College Board, with it being a hybrid style testing, so some tests were in school, some were virtual, there were 3 different chunks of test dates. And with that, some students got to shift around where and when they could take their tests. For instance, a lot of people had complications between the chemistry and statistics tests because they were on the same day and really close times. So those students were able to take one of the tests at a later date, so they didn't have to have that super compact one day. So just almost as a whole, I guess, from this virtual testing experience, it was just really great to see that we were able to overcome this super big obstacle that's this pandemic to make sure that we're still getting everything out of these AP courses.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sophia. Questions, comments? I will say that I saw the art show. I thought it was really good. I think that, it's nice to see that things are opening up a little bit more. See Mrs. Kane here. I know that they were, certain classes were more impacted this year than others, and so it was nice to see the arts come out. I saw that Drowsy Chaperone was out as well. My only question for you, Sophia, is I know that before COVID hit, we approved no finals for the seniors. We really haven't been able to evaluate that. But with, I guess my question is how do you feel as a student without a final at the end? Because when I went to school, that's all you did. You have finals at the end. And now with teaching and learning being quite different, and I think there's been less of an emphasis already on no finals. I mean, do you feel that, I guess, what are your thoughts on that overall? Because I feel like finals are supposed to, in a way, make sure that you learn something that year, but I always found myself just trying to relearn something that I had learned 4 months ago, and I didn't find a lot of value in that. But what are your thoughts on not having finals this year?
Basically exactly how you're just putting it, with it relieves that need to just dig back back into random details from what you learned like 6 months ago. But at the same time, a lot of my classes were doing these projects where we're incorporating all topics that we've done over the course of the year. So we're reaching back to the broad units that we looked into, but without that stress of taking like a written test. So it's definitely, I like think that it's a lot better than taking the final itself, because I myself am more of like a hands-on person. I like being able to explain how I learned it rather than showing it in a test, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Sophia, this is Rich. I was just going to say that I appreciate how enthusiastic you are about the AP exam process. You know, despite your you know, the fact that you're happy not to do finals, sounds like you were pretty pleased with the process for the AP exam. Keep that in mind down the road. That there are students who really like those tests. Anyway,
yeah, it's definitely a rewarding process.
I'll just say, when I said to Sophia, how many APs did you take? She said, oh, just two.
Just two.
But yeah, it was great. And the teachers really worked closely with Mr. LaPrette to sort of identify the different strategies for virtual. There were some that we said to do in person just based on the specific nature, but just about everyone. And there were actually things that you said you and Gianna also liked about the virtual and some of the practices too, right, Sophia? So really interesting to see there, but great work. And thank you for all that you've done with your reports to us this year. And I think you said you have to run again, so I hope you do run again and come back with us in the future.
Thank you so much. Yep, I do have to rerun, but hopefully I can be back next year.
And what are your summer plans, if I may ask?
I am a competitive soccer player, so I have a lot of camps lined up.
Okay. Good luck. Enjoy your summer. We appreciate you coming to the meetings this year and giving your insight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. As usual, we're going to jump around on the agenda a little bit to try to address the people that are here so that you don't have to listen to some of the boring stuff if you don't want to. So the first thing we're going to jump to for new business is CPAC, North Reading Special Education Parent Advisory Council, or Advocacy Council. We have the co-chairs, Kathy O'Donnell-Booston and Kim Piper here, as well as we're joined by the Director of Student Services, Cynthia Conan. So thank you everyone for coming. Ms. O'Donnell-Booston or Ms. Piper, I don't know who's leading it. I'm guessing Kathy, you might be. You're muted. You have to unmute yourself, Kathy.
So I do have a presentation and, oh, that was wrong. Okay, this might do it. Yes. They moved the buttons.
They did move the buttons. It looks a little different now. There you go.
Yeah. So I would like to say how happy we are at North Reading CPAC to be speaking to you today. Let's see, I think this is our personnel chart, as it were. Co-chairs, myself, and Kim Piper. Website, Kim put out a new website this year since the summertime. Publicity, social media, and email, Marianne Keith, Kathy O'Donnell-Buston, and Kimberly Piper. And we have an early and elementary committee, which will be Nick McLeod and Nikki Tosi. And I like this chart because it shows that people have areas of specialty, but we all work really closely with each other. We also had another very important early volunteer, Jennifer McGee, who is, she said she didn't have time, so we said we would give her a leave of absence. She's not excused. She has to come back. So there we go. So Kimberly and I volunteered as co-chairs in June 2020. And at that time, we actually sat down and wrote up some goals. And this is what there were. Does anybody have any questions? You can just break in if you do. No? Okay. So our first goal, of course, is to fulfill our legal mission to assist the school district in hiring committees and any other meetings. Then we wanted to improve direct service and assistance to parents, parent to parent type of a thing. And so our first goal was to increase organization visibility and build the mailing list. We are required to provide one parent training during the year. We wanted to provide more than one parent training during the year, and we were able to do that. We wanted to distribute resources and information. For example, parent-generated webinars, handouts, visuals, and notices about events, and we were able to do that. Then we also had an idea to outreach to families in town whose students were over age 22, because it's all of our kids are going to be older than 22. So we were interested in seeing what happens next. This goal was not achieved, maybe next year. And we wanted to start at least one parent working group, which is parents working together to help each other. And these are our activities. In the summer, we attended CPAC Summer School. That's a new initiative from the Federation for Children with Special Needs, and we found that to be very, very helpful. We were members of the Parent Advisory Council for the whole year, starting with the reopening of the school, some of that work, and we were very happy. Cynthia, Director of Student Services, was so great. We met periodically with her, and our first meeting, Student Services and CPAC, happened in August of 2020. In November of 2020, we participated on the hiring committee for the interim batch elder principal. We were able to put together our first webinar on financial and legal planning in February. We had a parent survey at mailing list builder along the idea of what do parents need. Then we had our first monthly meeting to go over the results of that survey. What do parents need? We had also, going over the survey results, student services and CPAC meeting. In March, additionally, we had tiered focused monitoring participation. It's on their checklist to interview with CPAC. In March, we had, in collaboration with the community impact team, a webinar on wandering. In April, we participated on another hiring committee. We had World Autism Awareness Month with Light It Up Blue. Then our new website went live. We had the One Essential Basic Rights webinar we must do every year on eligibility and evaluation. A follow-up student services and CPAC meeting. We had a webinar, the big picture lessons from a special needs parent. Our end of the year meeting. Another student services and CPAC meeting, and here we are with our end of the year report to the school committee. Oh, and we have a budget slide. This is how much we spent during the year. Thank you to the school district who pays our $450 membership to MassPack, and we get one free webinar from them. We created our website and domain. We experimented with different kinds of publicity, and we really liked Facebook. Actually gave us the biggest bang for the buck. And then this is where our income came. We were able to get donations from the community for the community impact team, the financial planner, donated, and we had some of the parents donating. So going to our, and if you have any questions, please do let me know. Our goals for next year. First of all, I'd like to say that a lot of the leadership right now are parents of autistic children, but we do not want to be limited to that area. We are the CPAC for every parent and every of a disabled child in the district. So we'll try next year to get some participation from those parents so that we can have a representative understanding, a better understanding of what all the needs are. So we are going to continue to fulfill our legal mission to assist the school district. And our goal for 21-22, we want to have it be the year of the IEP. We want all of the CPAC member parents' knowledge of the IEP process and safeguards to improve. I think that will be a tremendous benefit to the families and also to the staff as well when they deal with people who are more knowledgeable about what's going on. We're going to provide 6 parent training webinars. One is going to be Student Services is going to have a meet and greet in September with Cynthia Conant. A lot of our parents aren't exactly sure what the organizational structure of special education is, starting from, who's a liaison, chairperson, stuff like that. So you'd be amazed. People don't, people take a while to settle into knowledge like that. We will have a basic rights presentation, hopefully in October. With the CIT, we are going to provide advertising for the presentation on mental health. We're going to promote it to our members. Gina Sacco is going to give a seminar on inclusion classroom best practices. And we hope to combine forces with local CPACs from other towns. So in addition to the one basic right presentation that we get because North Reading pays the membership fee, we're going to try and line up the other 2 in collaboration with the other CPACs. And then we'll have another topic that we haven't yet decided yet. This line no longer applies. The report from the Inclusion Classroom Committee. We hope to collaborate with the Recreation Department to make sure that some of the town recreation services are inclusive. And we would like to make progress on our bylaws. We need to have official bylaws, budget, and we want to meet all the requirements of the open meeting law, which include publicizing your agenda and your minutes. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring forward is that we wanted to thank people in the school district and the community who made our first year so much better by pretty much welcoming us with open arms. Cynthia Conant, Gina Sacco, these 2 are from Student Services. Patrick Daly, everybody should know that. Scott Buckley, who is wonderfully the liaison to the CPAC, so he's been very helpful. And then Amy Lukowitz from the CIT. So I'm open for questions if you want me to go back to any previous slide. Otherwise, I will transfer the presentation back.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I don't have any specific questions. I want to just thank you and Kim both for stepping up. I know that we had Mr. McManus for a number of years doing this, and I know that there was a lot of hesitation for anybody else to step up, and so I appreciate, as you said, this is something that we need to have in this district, and I think it can be a very useful group. So I really very much appreciate you stepping up and, taking on the role and, learning it and developing it. And so if there's more that we can do to help, please let us know. And I know that, Cynthia and Gina do a great job here, and I know they appreciate also having, advocates for the students. So thank you.
I see that Kim is here, so Kim, you can wave your hand too. She's the co-chair. And I think I forgot, did I have the early, we have an early intervention and elementary committee. One of the reasons why Kim and myself were so interested in taking on this role is that we did a lot of learning by experience, and we want to make sure that the other families don't have to do all that learning by themselves. So we in particular want to reach out to them and give them some support. And then my son is preparing for transition, so we'll probably end up having some activities around that too. So I think we pretty much have the full age range being handled, and then we're also going to try and get participation from parents whose children have different disabilities as well.
Any other questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you, Kathy, Kim, Marianne. It's been really nice partnering with you guys. And I know we've kind of talked about this in our leadership meeting, but I just really want to emphasize that you've had such a big impact in such a short amount of time, and you captured all of your activities so nicely in your slideshow presentation. So that was great. I also want to thank you for your participation in tiered focus monitoring. For those of you who don't know what that is the process by which the Department of Education comes to the district and does an audit on our compliance within the district. We were really excited to learn that we had 0 findings on this audit. We had 0 items that required corrective action. That's really a tribute to everybody in the district, from Dr. Daly to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, principals, teachers, school committee members, because in order for us to be compliant at that level, it really requires an understanding of resource allocation and what is required in special education. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for that. That was great news. And Kathy, again, thank you for participating in that. And I'm looking forward to working with you guys over the course of next year and continue the momentum that you've already started.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Diana?
I was just going to add that I'm really grateful that you're coming to the school committee to present, because this information is really helpful, and I think we're doing it annually, right? So I'm glad that we're doing this and look forward to it. So thank you for presenting.
We would, of course, if we have any concerns or any information, we will we won't wait necessarily the whole year, but we really have a service mentality. It's hard when you're a beginning special needs parent, and as I was telling Cynthia, your ability to absorb information, you're learning so much about the disability, so we're going to try and get them all started the right way.
Dr. Daly?
I just wanted to thank you all for all that you do for our students, and for participating in the Superintendent's Parent Advisory Council, for being a part of those selection committees. I want to make sure that you're all aware of, and I hope that some of you can be represented in what I'm going to do in a couple of weeks on the 22nd with our NRPS 2025 visioning. I've seen a lot of goals and suggestions and ideas coming in already about inclusion and working with students. So I'm sure that that some of you are going to be involved in that work as well. But always feel free to reach out to me at any time. I think Cynthia and Gina are the best people to be working with, but I'm also very happy and very welcome to come even just to pop into a meeting, just to say hello, to introduce myself, to put a name with a face or behind a mask face so you can see. I've had a beard this whole time. People don't even know that. So I'm more than happy to come to some of our meetings. And I will say, in the spirit of inclusion, there'll be a nice transition as we work with Ms. Kane, because I was able to see a really great inclusion lesson today in her class that had students in another class that wrote a play, and they got to perform that. And it was a great dance battle, really, between Sonic the Hedgehog and Strawberry Shortcake, right? It was awesome. But it was just seeing that it was written by a student who was not in the theater class, I believe, who then was able to have her production performed, and students from both classes working together. It was truly, truly fantastic. So I just think that's just a great story of inclusion that I was so lucky to witness today. So I wanted to share that as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you to the CPAC members for coming. As always, you are welcome to stay, just like Sophia. Janine wanted me to point out, if you were waiting to be dismissed, Sophia, you can stay as long as you'd like, or leave as well. But thank you all very much. So we're going to move on, and I see Mrs. Kane. We've been referencing Mrs. Kane, and I believe she's here for one of our subcommittee updates. We talk about the Fine Arts Subcommittee sometimes, and so I think we're going to kind of just jump to that first. And I don't know, Dr. Daly, if you want to kind of introduce this first.
If I could, one of the topics that we've talked about during our Fine Arts subcommittees has been some of the activities that we're hoping to resume with our different arts groups. And one of them is this trip that Ms. Kane has worked very hard on. If you may recall, these are things that we've had planned and scheduled that due to COVID had to be canceled, postponed, or otherwise reimagined. So we were hoping to have this on here tonight as a vote. It's not on the agenda at that point, but I hope that what we can have is a little bit of a discussion in terms of also a presentation for the details to lay all of the foundation and groundwork for us to discuss a little bit as a part of this agenda, in order to then make some decisions moving forward for Ms. Kane, so that then we would be able to vote that officially at an upcoming meeting. So is it okay to let Ms. Kane share a little bit at this time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you like me to share my screen, Ms. Kane, or do you have something?
I have something I can present from here, if that's okay.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone's face. Allison Kane, and I am the Performing Arts Manager, trying to figure out ways to keep these kids involved. We had a Disney trip planned pre-COVID, if some of you remember. It's something we try to do once every 4 years, is to give the performing arts students a real opportunity to go outside of Massachusetts and perform and take classes with professionals. And Disney provides an educational setting where they get to go to school during the day and take classes based on their specific art form, so instrumental theater or vocal music, and then they have the chance to also perform as well. Unfortunately, that was shut down, so we've been just kind of trying to keep it going when we thought it could be safe. And so we're looking to April, May of 2022. So I'm gonna present here. 1 second. Let's see. Takes me 1 second here. Okay, so the overall, the way that the week would work, or not a full week, but after school on a Tuesday, we would leave, we would depart North Reading, and we'd head down, we'd fly into Orlando, and the students would stay on Disney property with us. They would go through all the different parks are kind of planned out because different classes take place in different parks. They typically go to class for 3 and 4 hours. Sometimes it's 2 hours break, 2 hours. Sometimes it's, a full set from like 9 to 1. And then they are allowed to play inside the park. One of the classes they take is actually a pyrotechnics class. That's one of the theater classes where they get to go in and see how they do all of the lasers and the fireworks and how they set that up. And then after the class, they play in the park. And then that night they get to kind of go and watch how it works, which is a really cool class. Our concert band, our jazz band, our marching band students will get to perform. They get adjudicated, which means they actually get scored. They can also take master class. Notorious and chorus will perform, be adjudicated, and take a master class. And all of their theatrical students will be master classes with the Disney professionals. There's no performance-based for them. However, there's a portfolio review. So if some of those students are looking to move on after high school, they have a professional take a look at some of their work. We do come home on Sunday night. The estimated cost for this trip is $1,800. I'm actually the one working through all of this. I used to be a travel agent, so I can cut out the middleman and keep the costs low. I personally think that I can get this cost lower, but this is based on the highest ticket price I can find before I even start negotiations. So I figure it's easier to say it's going to be this and then make a lower bid and then present that to the parents than it is to say it's going to be more. Because as a parent, I would never want someone to do that. I would want to just know this is what it is. We have payments set up, and they're every other month. We're going to use Unibank for direct deposit. So that way we don't have to worry about collecting cash or money or checks or anything along those lines. This trip is non-refundable, but I want to say that with all of the new stuff that has happened, it's non-refundable, meaning if a student decides they no longer want to go or their parent is like, yeah, well, they're not going anymore, that's non-refundable. But if there's a COVID situation or any of the things that we've had nowadays, there's a clause in the contracts that say that's an excusable reason to get a full refund. So we say that it's not refundable, meaning keep your grades up. You got to, we want everybody to go and to be good, honest citizens of North Reading. But extenuating circumstances, there is a clause in there. There's a permission slip for the parents. And then the chaperones that we're looking for would be already set. Peter Kane, Allison Kane, Ben Owens, John Eldridge, Chrissy Bowman, Andrea Gagnon, Dan Muse, and Lexi Muse. These are all staff in the Performing Arts Department. Some of them teach after school in like marching band or the musical, but they're all staff members, part of North Reading. We're going to hold a parent meeting, and I hope to kind of put that out very soon for those parents. And then we've communicated to the 8th graders once we do that, and then we'll be holding another parent meeting in the fall, and then a follow-up one right before we leave. That'll be an in-person parent meeting. I already kind of talked about the classes that we take, which is kind of cool. The breakdown of how much all of the estimates are. This is based on 2 years ago with a cost increase, as well as my kind of, research. Again, I haven't negotiated some of it, so I think I can get, say, flights a little bit lower, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And then we do a lot of fundraising. Students who were already going 2 years ago, I still have their fundraising money. So we're going to apply that right to those kids already if they choose to go. And I think that's a really cool way that then they can fundraise again. And some students might not pay a dime for this trip if they fundraised as strongly as they were before. It's a really cool opportunity. It's once every 4 years. That way they have other opportunities to do other trips and other experiences without worrying about the financial ramifications for different family members. So that's the trip.
Excellent. Comment, question? Janine, this is Brianna.
How many do you believe or can attend?
So we had 80 scheduled to go with us last time 2 years ago. So I'm budgeted. That's why I have 8 chaperones. I'm assuming we're going to have about 80. But if we need more, then we'll get another chaperone. And if we have less, then we won't take as many chaperones.
Okay, and then one last question. It says, if for some reason your student is unable to attend, the money is still their responsibility unless you can find another performing arts student to take their place.
Right. So what we've, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done in the past is we have to have a cutoff just because I have to purchase flights. So then every time I've done this, I've always had a wait list. So what we've typically done is, and it's actually only happened once or twice, when a parent says, oh my gosh, they have to go to their dance recital, they can no longer make the trip. Can I get a refund? And I'm like, no, like I can't do that. However, I have Joey Smith right here, and Joey can take your place. So that's what that means. That's explained to the parents ahead of time. We do have that wait list. But the whole point is, unless there's an extreme extenuating circumstance, they need to pay that money. And that's what that means.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Papafacilio.
Three things. I'll start with the question Janine should have followed up with. If you need more chaperones, can Janine go?
Wait, that was going to be me.
Yeah, everyone wanted to make that joke.
I want to go to the pyrotechnic class. It's so cool.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Two questions, Ms. Kane. Because clearly, you've as always, you have this completely well thought out, far more than I ever would. I appreciated what you were saying about thinking ahead in case there's some, if not COVID-like event, some extenuating circumstance that really complicates things. You had mentioned that there's a clause in the contract. Is that with the park? Does that leave the airline, separate, just going through you and not through an agency? I'm curious.
Yeah. So in discussion, so Disney has its own booking agency. So if you say were to go, you could hire someone else, but they would still be talking to Disney's booking agency. So you're going through a middleman to go to a middleman. So by eliminating that, I just call the Disney booking agency and say, what's the situation? And since COVID happened and we already had to deal with that, when someone is diagnosed with COVID, there's an actual state database that they're on. So for extenuating circumstances such as that, you have to prove with a medical or the database or a doctor's note or something along those lines. Disney has added that into their clause as a way to get a refund. Airline tickets won't pay you the money back. They keep it in a bank. So the bank, depending on the reason, can be up to a year. You book it within the year, but you can use it up to 3 years after, or you have to book it within 2 years if it's a medical issue. So the money's still there for you. You just don't take that flight as far as airlines go.
Gotcha. My other question was just concerning kids that 2 years ago signed up for it and are still in school now, but maybe choose not to go, or other kids that fundraised but have since graduated. Do those funds, are they just going to be applied to take the whole price down? Is that the idea?
So yes, because we have to rent buses and a few other things. So we're hoping it almost always kind of susses out. We're going to take some of that money, say a graduate who had that fundraising money that was in there. They had $87.14 and this graduate had $102 and so much, and you start to just chunk it away, which is why I think that I'm very certain that it will go down, but I can't say that for 100% because tomorrow the airline tickets could just skyrocket. The faster I can get them booked, the faster.
Right, and $1,800 for this experience seems like such a reasonable price that if it goes down, that's fantastic. But you're not starting in a silly point.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Great. Other questions, comments? So, this is Kane. I'll do a few. First, quick question is, I noticed it's April 26th through May 1st. I think that's the week after April break.
It is.
Is there what was the thinking on that as opposed to doing it during April break?
So because we have a very robust international travel group that travels every April, since I've been at North Reading, we've always traveled the week after. And so that's the last 16 years because we didn't want to clash with that. And I can tell you, I know of at least 6 students who are doing the Japan trip and the Disney trip next year.
That was my anticipation, but I was just checking. And just overall comments, I would just say that, I think one of the highlights when I talk to other people, about North Reading, I think one of the highlights at North Reading is the performing arts, and all the things that you have your fingers on. And so I just want to thank you for that. I'm just very glad that you're not negotiating contracts too. You can tell Peter that, you know, I'd much rather not have to negotiate against you on these things, so feel bad for the travel agents, but no, I mean, you do a fantastic job here, and, you know, you really are one of the, I mean, I think of all the things that happen in North Reading, like every school has sports and they have teams that are good. I mean, I think it really stands out at North Reading, the performing arts here, and I think a lot of that has to do with you, so thank you so much.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. It's a passion.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And then I know earlier they said something was announced today, so I thought maybe you guys would want to know.
Oh, nice.
Oh, no, awesome.
That we'll be
That's
doing
nice.
Newsies next year.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
My kids will be very excited. One of the few shows I've actually seen on Broadway.
Oh, so much fun. So much fun.
So again, since, and I apologize we didn't get this on the agenda to officially vote, but I think, knowing my committee members, I think if we get our kind of like informal feedback, I think it's fairly certain that you can start moving forward. And we're not going to officially vote, but I would say that I very much encourage this and appreciate this and in support of this. I don't know what everybody else thinks. Janine, do you support this?
I would definitely, yes.
Diana?
I'm very supportive.
Rich?
Absolutely.
Chris?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so without taking a formal vote, I think you sort of have an idea of where we're leaning towards all of this. So we appreciate it, and you know, thank you so much for coming tonight. And
thank you. Thank you for squeezing me in. I know it's always a tight time frame, so thank you, everyone. It's a busy time of year.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I guess we'll continue on these other committees. And Chris, put your hand down. Jeez, just kidding. We'll move on to the other committee report, since that's where we're at on the agenda. Finance Planning came out on May 25th. I would say we just went over town meeting warrant articles and nothing else really.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. We did the fine arts. Anything else?
Look into the future, I guess.
Yes. Anything else for fine arts that was discussed at the fine arts subcommittee meeting?
No, I mean, I guess we should have said this while Allison was here, but just more understanding of what they've done over the year to deal with COVID and all the adjustments they've had to make. But so we're looking forward to start talking about plans for next year, which is exciting. And by the way, the arts program, the arts presentation, I thought was fantastic. And we talked about that's something we've talked about a couple times over the year in meetings, and I hope we're able to continue that even as we go back to in-person art presentations. I thought that was a great way to get it out to the community. The virtual presentation.
Yeah, that's good. I was showing my kids it and saying like, look, that's a 7th grader. You think you could do that in 2 years or 3 years or whatever? They're like, no, that's not a 7th grader. I'm like, some of them were really, really professional.
Yeah, thank you.
Athletics.
I just want to say they participated in the Pegasus Springs had a virtual art show competition as well, and many of the students from North Reading participated in that. That was excellent to see as well.
Yep. Athletic subcommittee, Ann State.
Talked about the lights.
Do you remember this yet or not?
We looked at each other going, I forgot my notes, I do too. Yeah.
At least you take notes of these things, so.
Yeah, there was a discussion about the need of lights on the sports complex down in, you know, what takes precedence? Do we, you know, put money towards the lights, or the field, the football field needs to be returfed? Is that the right terminology? So there was a healthy discussion in regards to that, and
there was a couple of coaching recommendations that they were looking at, like adding a few additional coaches
for lacrosse and track. And
based on numbers.
Yeah, and then over at the Hood School, they've been revitalizing the field over there, and I believe they're putting a fence, and they are installing a batting cage. I think it was up to like 90 feet, but they don't need the entire length of it. And I believe it was donated by a family, and I don't remember the family's name off the top of my head. So I just wanted to say thank you to that family. I can remember the name.
I think it came through the Diamond Club.
The Diamond Club, okay, yeah.
I believe. But they were So that's excellent that's part of it. There is at the little school, the softball field, there's the cage there, and now there's one at the Hood School as well as what we have up here at this complex that's sort of shared by the two teams, softball and baseball. Yeah, I just wanted to add, certainly the conversation around the lights, the field, the turf replacement is also critical, very important. One thinking is that, if you have lights, you don't need to, the use of the turf field can be lessened because now everyone's fighting for one place that has lights, and if you have lights in some other areas, we can continue to function later in the day in more places. So there's a lot of conversation, I think, around the lights. Certainly connects with the start times, but also we just certainly see a huge benefit for the entire community for all different kinds of events, and not just athletics, marching band, performing arts. We can do a lot outside with lights as well in the later hours. We have started to install some of the lights as sort of a 4-phase project that's been introduced. We were able to do some of that already on the all-purpose field, and we do want to take some next steps soon to start really having a discussion. I've been working with folks on the town side as well to talk about, where our commitment is as a town to try to move this forward. I think there's a lot of exciting possibilities for many different groups, youth groups. It's not just that school groups that use those fields at all different times. So.
Well, you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, there's no subcommittee meeting scheduled. So now we
just finish, or we gotta go back to the top?
Well, I think we've addressed all the guests here, so I think we have to go back to the top now and start with continued business and the return to in-person update.
I know, we're back. So we had a great couple of days. There's as far as a COVID-19 update, I thought I'd be able to not report anything, but I did have one. I had one in late May that I did share out today. The numbers for the town and for the schools are very, very low, and we're about one active case that we're monitoring. So that's great. Our Director of Public Health, Mr. Bracey, and our public health nurse, Ms. Hovey, as well as a few of our school nurses, assisted with our vaccination clinics that were offered at our schools due to the extreme heat. We did move that indoors, but we had condensed them into 2 days. I'm not sure necessarily what that means, whether a lot of students are vaccinated in other ways, or there wasn't as much of a need. I think from what I've seen, a lot of people that wrote to me asking to cancel was because they were able to get something even sooner at CVS or whatnot. So I think there was a lot of availability, but I do think it was good that we were able to extend and offer this support for those students who did need it. And so that was there. We are going to then have 2 days later that will be sent out. That will be a second dose opportunity for anyone that was vaccinated here or anywhere. So it'll be another chance if you were vaccinated somewhere else and want to come here. So more to come on those events soon. Our nurses, as always, were fantastic with that.
Well, if I may, just one quick comment on that one. So, I mean, my son did his vaccination there. And I appreciate it as a parent because my son doesn't do well with shots. Mm-hmm. And so because it was a friendly face, because it was the nurse that he knew from the little school, not only that, but as soon as he walked in, the nurse knew him. Yeah. And knew that he wasn't going to do well with everybody else around. And I would just like to point out that, like, she did great and pulled him aside and brought him to another area because, again, I mean, as a student in the middle school, like if he was having, an emotional reaction to something, I thought it was, I just applaud the way that they handled it. And so it was a nice thing about, people that knew him that were able to do that. And so he, felt comfortable. So.
Sure. No, that's great, and it was a good local scene. And like we, just to clarify on that too, I did share something out with staff this week as a reminder, and just to update the community and you as well that, we certainly, I think the Director of Public Health, the Board of Health would say, that this idea that vaccinations are very helpful in moving us forward, but there is no clear direction from the state around what vaccinations would look like for students or staff, whether anything would be required. There's been no indication of that in any way to date, and I will communicate that if there is. It's obviously the topic of vaccination for adults and students is something that will come up in class topically, especially in certain current events classes. But I gently reminded our staff that it's not appropriate to ask students about their vaccination or staff. It's not appropriate to take a position on whether it's the right thing or not the right thing. It's a very personal, private decision that needs to be made by families, and I think that was a clear message that was sent out. I did hear some concerns from parents that there wouldn't be, and I believe we talked about a little bit at our last meeting, that there wouldn't be any kind of shaming of a student for making one choice or another. And so I think it's really important to communicate that out. So we did do that. As I alluded to, we did have to call 2 heat days this year, which I thought we were through all these interesting days, but we did have the extreme heat. Just to be very clear with everyone that we considered all the various factors that were going on, the extreme heat in the classrooms, the fact that there's no AC in some of these elementary school rooms especially, that students are wearing masks is an additional factor, and the way that we're using fans and air circulation is different this year. We can't do some of the things we would do even in a typical year. In a typical year, it can get very, very warm in those rooms. So I think all those factors considered, I spoke with my administrative team who felt very strongly. I would say especially Ms. Molly and Dr. McKay in their buildings really wanted to make sure that we had the support for the students and staff. So by doing the half day, we were able to stay with our time on learning guidelines within the parameters, not have to make those days up. And we also, the oppressive heat started around 10:30-ish when you look at the count. So we only had an hour and a half or so before we were able to schedule some, outdoor things at that time. So less of a concern. And I did feel, certainly the short notice, it's never ideal. We gave at least, a day's notice about that as much as we could. But I do think that there were, there were some folks that didn't understand and said, I went to school when it was hot as a kid, but this year is very different in terms of what kids are going through. And, when safety becomes a concern with students breathing, I did hear from a few folks saying this is a day we should waive the mask requirements. That is really beyond my control. It's a state mandate right now from the Department of Public Health and from the governor and from the Department of Education that masks are required for staff and students indoors. There's no changes to that I'm aware of. And so the DESE did communicate to us what we could do and what we could not do. They did say we could not do remote learning, and they said we could have frequent mask breaks, but they certainly did not say that we could remove those restrictions during the school day. So they sort of also recommended considering half days, and that's why we made that decision.
For what it's worth, I support it. I thought it was the right decision, and I also applaud food service was a quick change as well. I know that they had to do
some grab and goes,
half-day meals for all 3, Monday through Wednesday too. So yeah, it was right.
Coordinating the after-school programs and making all that work. Our team, as always, responded very quickly to those changes. So I'm hoping we are out of the woods. We have, I think, after tomorrow, right? So 4 days.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's no more curveballs, but that is great. I do have summer programs on here, but I do have as a new item summer 2021, so I may just work with that. The item of the you should probably address that, but should I jump to that?
For what was the summer stuff?
Yeah, summer 2021.
All right, we're good. Done with continued business.
Yeah.
Moving on. You want to go to jump to summer 2021?
Yeah, I think
we're
that
all
makes.
Over the place. Let's go.
I know. I think just because that was an item there, and I just figured it was a good segue. The main thing I wanted to share here, we do have our extended school year program, which will include some continuation of things from the school year that would be able to continue. One thing that we are looking at with the pool testing continuing in that window, we're going to look and see whether there's any pool testing opportunities for beyond this year. There are some funding available, and so my thought is to continue things like that. If there's an interest and it's covered by the state, why not continue that? Is sort of our thought. There's also, they are going to support us with at-home testing with the Binax kits for folks. so they could test for symptoms at home prior to coming to school. So we're going to investigate and explore all of that as long as it's covered by the state. We figure that just more resources and support. So that's a little different from our other summer program, which is the Title I program that Mr. Colleen has developed. So we've got Ms. Conant's program, we've got the program Mr. Colleen's running during the summer. There is going to be an announcement of a third program that will be the last week of August, if everything gets approved, which it should. It will be the week of August 23rd to August 27th. This is an intensive 5-day program, 4 hours a day, 20 hours for the week. It'll early literacy grades K1, 2. Chris, can you hear us again?
Yeah, you're back.
All right, so was the last thing you heard when I said about heat days, or did you hear about the summer programs?
Yeah, you had just finished saying that the intensive summer program would be 20 hours a week, and that's where you cut.
Okay. So I'll just say it's 20 hours a week. The stipend is very inviting to attract some of our highly qualified teachers. It's an intense program, early literacy in math, in K1, 2, mathematics in 3, 4, 8, and 10. It's very much prescribed. It's written by the state. There's not a lot of wiggle room in that. There are specials that are offered as well. So I'm on this place where I want to advertise it, get it out there for the teachers and for the families. But I also want to make sure that it's approved. And so I'm waiting for that approval coming in from the state. So hopefully it's going to happen very soon. But I wanted to share that publicly and talk about it. I think it's a great program. So when you hear, and some parents have asked, what are we doing? The governor's got money for summer programs. It's very specific, and the ratios are small. They're looking for about 10 to 12 students per class. So we're talking about 150 to 200 students total. So we'll be looking at those students who are most at risk and most in need of acceleration. Some of those students and teachers may be students who participate in other programs as well. It'll really be open to many folks. We will have a program coordinator, facilitator, that will be looking at the data and working with these teachers. So it's a great leadership opportunity also for someone to work this program. So I'm excited about it. Just waiting for that approval.
One question, unrelated, but since we're doing it by time here, summer. I know that last year for having a student that was a rising sixth grader, they didn't get to do the tour of the middle school. Are those things going to start again this year? Like, will the sixth graders be offered the ability to come here and do the tour?
The walkabouts and such, we will be doing that. So for the spring, we didn't do the step-up days. We didn't have the buses come up here. Dr. O'Connell went to each elementary and spoke to the students there. So that was a little different. But our hope is that for the fall, we will be able to, essentially, I hope we're back to normal to the extent possible. All the indications are that, mask restrictions will be eased. They're not clear. There could be something still at elementary school, and it's still not clear what lunch would look like. What I've heard is that there may be a mask restriction, but no distancing restriction, and then I still am not sure how that plays out for lunch, which is a huge question because obviously we're still using many of our spaces as overflow lunch areas. So there's a lot of questions that need to be worked out, and we haven't had answers for, and I don't know that we're going to get answers until midsummer.
Okay. Sorry, I was mostly listening, but also looking at my paper. Are these just rumors we're hearing, or what's the, I mean, is this something official now that about next year, or is it just what you're hearing so far?
So I'm reporting what's been shared in the commissioner's updates that I've shared out. The other, I did share out this information with the community. I literally hit send on a blackboard, went into my email, and there was the commissioner's thing, and it was like, so I will share that out with some updates again as a reminder. But in that update, he did speak to what next year might look like, that there would not be remote learning expectations, there would not be distancing requirements. That's where they are right now. But there's still some questions within that have not been answered. So I'm basing it on what has been shared in those documents.
Thank you.
It's been on the news too, in terms of lifting the mask mandate and all that for middle high and elementary coming out this summer.
Yeah, I've heard different things, and I just wasn't sure what's been rumored, what's actually happened so far, and all that. So I figured you. Yeah,
I think it's reasonable to say that they're just trying to get through the end of this school year, and there are certain things, and I think some legalities possibly that, so even extended school year is a continuation of this year, and they need to get through that piece, and maybe when those programs are wrapping, they can then make clear distinctions with what next year can look like.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be hard to say you're not going to need a mask next year. If you say it now when you still have 2 more kids at school, then you're going to have those concerns. But okay, I'll just go on record and say I hope that we don't have to have them next year.
I will say too, reading between the lines a little bit with this heat day, as I mentioned, they said you could not do remote learning, which is something that I would personally advocate for. I mean, we're getting out 2 or 3 days earlier this year because we had that at our disposal this year. Again, not a blizzard bag, but full remote learning with this, going back to what we did for this year. To me, that's one of the silver linings of this that would be a great tool to have. And again, we can still have our traditional snowmen, but and snow people, but to have that tool in the toolbox, I thought was a great extra tool to have. And, like I said, at that time, instead of a delay, where you just now could say everyone's on right at the time, you get full classes all day long. And, in some ways, that's better education, and we could do it in North Reading, and it would work for us. But what I saw with the heat day seemed to foreshadow that might not be allowed. Yeah. So we'll see.
Okay, and then I do a fall update as well, and then we'll go back since we're just kind of going in time now.
Sure. So the fall 2021, we just talked a little bit about possible COVID-19 procedures, so I think I've discussed that. I just want to touch base on the busing and make sure this is clear. So, with our start time changes, with our shifting to 2 tiers, that provides many advantages, from everything from what's possible through collaboration of staff, by having programming, scheduling. It certainly poses some challenges. We've definitely talked about the arrival and dismissal, and I have put something out to parents. The very first thing is making sure we're following the rules that are in place currently to make things flow. I've been outside almost every afternoon and observed this. I've had the police, the fire chiefs up here and their teams. I've had the town administrator who was here, the principals, Sean Clean, Michael Connolly. As bad as it can get on some of these days, it's all over within 10 minutes or so. So there's always going to be a backup. Most of what you see as a backup are people who get here early waiting for the dismissal to go through. We did uncover a couple of things with the lights that will be better for next year. And there are many more students who are getting picked up this year and not taking the bus due to COVID. So we're in kind of an interesting place where we've increased the number of buses, as you know. We want more students to ride the buses than this year because we want more bus ridership and we think there will be. So we're kind of getting to that sweet spot right now where there's room on the buses. We've already passed our deadlines for late fees. So everyone who wants to ride the bus right now can, and that's good. The more people that ride the bus, the less cars that are here, which is also good. But what I want to make sure I present to you tonight are a couple of things to think about. We are at a place, though, where every year there are people that are late. And let's say there's 50 people that in late August, they just ignored all the warnings. They don't care about the late fee. They want to pay, and they get on the bus. The problem this year is that we may need to have a wait list. And so I wanted to, before we put that up, before we talked about it, because the problem will be with the 2 tiers, there's just not going to be room on the buses. Or it will make runs very long, even to add those spaces that we do have. And so the question becomes, I just wanted to be clear that though we've had late fees, we've never really been in a position where we've said to someone who's very late, we need to put you on a wait list. And so that is a possibility. Now we could say at that point there's a financial, do we have to go out and try to get another bus? As we know that's very expensive. And the other issue is that, something you would do at that point is do you then uncouple start times, but that causes a lot of other ripple effects. And I just wanted to put that out there though, if there is a huge traffic issue, if there is a busing issue, I would want to do the right thing and try to make adjustments. But I wanted to just ask that question, and maybe it's something we think about and talk about on another meeting, but is there a preferred strategy that the committee would recommend if we were to uncouple? Or, do we say we don't, that's the last resort? Do we get extra buses before we divide? Or do we separate middle and high school? And if we did, would we want to talk about whether it's middle or high school that goes, because there's the health and the science considerations, and then there's also other logistical considerations.
I want to just clarify this very quickly.
Yeah.
So we're primarily talking about high school, middle school.
Yeah, we are. We are.
And we're really talking about 7th through 12, where we have no obligation to bus them.
Yeah. And
we've sent out a request to get the number from people.
Yeah.
Everybody who has requested a bus pass as of the deadline, as of the date that we had to do the budget for town meeting, it's already been approved.
Yes.
Every one of those people has, so if they're legally required to be bused, they will be bused. If they applied for a bus pass in time, they will be bused. We're only talking about people that might be late to ask for a request afterwards.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
Correct. If someone were
I'm not
to move,
foreshadowing where I'm at, but like, I don't
if someone were to move in, if someone were to move in who legally qualified for it, we would have to find space.
And 6th graders would have to potentially, if they live outside of it. I think that's a little bit different. Like even if they're late, if we're legally required to give it to them, I think we have to either way. But yeah. Janine?
All right. 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, if it was a handful, could you use the athletic bus, the multifunction one, to do a run?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay. And 2, is this based on the limited seating because you have to have space in between the students?
This is not a COVID restriction now. This is just the pure numbers. There's, like I said, there's a sweet spot and we're well within it. As you know, Michael's very conservative, always thinking ahead, and just wants to be clear that, we had a line that we want to basically tell people that there may be a wait list, and that's not something we've introduced before. We may have alluded to it, but, we're afraid that some people may not take it seriously and just expect to get on the bus late August. And there's a real chance with the 2 tiers. I mean, that's a big difference to go from 4 tiers to 2, that it might be a little different this year. So again, right now there's still some wiggle room, but we're just trying to be looking forward.
So the seating, on the bus, just to follow up.
Yeah.
To ask this question in a different way. The seating on the bus is no longer restricted?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, those restrictions would not be as they've been this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And that's actually changed already to allow us to bring all the kids back in person together.
Rich, you wanna go?
You talk about uncoupling, you're talking about changing the start time. Yeah. I mean, it seems to me that having made the decision that the start times, these are the start times we want to have, and we have to understand what the impact is. And I mean, I guess it depends on the numbers. If there's 100 people, forbid, then that's one thing. But it would seem like to change around the schedule because 10 people have to be. We don't want 10 people being on a wait list. It seems to be the tail wagging the dog a little bit on that one. So.
Okay. I mean, I think my only additional comment. Number one, I think we need to very much encourage carpooling in some way, even if there's like an earlier drop off for somebody that carpools or something like that. But then you could encourage seniors to maybe bring friends. Maybe you get a better parking spot if you bring a friend.
Seniors can't. The laws don't allow them to carpool when they're driving.
Right. Oh, they don't? Oh, okay.
Well,
families can at least.
Families can do that, yeah.
So
And parents can carpool, but seniors cannot have non-family members in the car, I think is.
Yeah.
When you're driving.
I think, overall, I would say the last thing we should do is adjust the start time for the buses or even for traffic in the morning. I mean, I think we are a small district compared to a lot of districts. There are a lot of districts whose high schools are the size of our middle and high school. And somehow they all get dropped off. And so if there has to be maybe an earlier drop off, you've extended an extra 5 minutes or something, I think there can be adjustments for that. Like even if it needs to be like if school starting at 8:30, that maybe some people can drop off between 8:10 and 8:20, and then some at 8:20 to 8:30. I think that's where I would go in trying to figure out for the drop off part. For the buses, I know before we proposed the additional 2 buses, we talked about maybe doing an extra run or something. What I wonder is if maybe there's a run that is close to the school that could potentially be done afterwards. Like if maybe one bus gets in, 10 minutes early, that bus can go out and then just pick up. So maybe like out of 10 buses, we can get 11 runs. Yeah. If something like that were to happen, if we start seeing it, like, because we've talked before about maybe having a couple of extra runs in some way. Maybe if it comes up as an issue, maybe we could get 11 or 12 runs out of 10 buses. I would go there. I would change the start times as last because we're doing it for educational reasons. Right. And so because somebody who didn't apply on time didn't get a bus pass, I don't think that's a reason to change the start time for everybody in the district. So that's just my thought.
I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah. Diana, any thoughts? Or Chris?
I actually agree. At the last resort, I would want to change the start time. I think it's different when maybe someone's late and we're required to bus them. We really would have to think about that. For folks that it's sort of elected and that type of thing, a process is a process. I don't mean to sound harsh there, and I hate that we'd have to have a wait list, but to Scott's point, we could obviously look at something, but I'm more concerned about the kids that we actually are required to bus. I know we had, to your point about an extra run, I know we had this concept of having this later bus so kids could stay after school later. Like, I don't know if we have that run. I don't know cost per run or if it's just cost by bus. Is it cost by bus? Okay, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, if we could do something like that, I think we should just look long and hard at the other scenarios versus changing the start time.
I appreciate that. And so, we just wanted to have a discussion before we put it on the letter. And we didn't want you to say, what is this wait list that's not been something we've done. But I wanted to hear too that, that we're committed to this change and that, there's going to be some growing pains. And I think a lot of people right now are in a line for middle school pickup, let's say, and saying, oh, it's going to be twice as long next year. And it won't be. It'll be different. We have some strategies. We have some ideas. We've met with police and fire. As I mentioned, we have all different ideas. We're going to have a working group over the summer that's going to share this out. My plan would be to have some detailed forums with some maps and guidance and signage. We have some different ideas about how to, make this a little bit smoother next year. But the first step, as I mentioned in my email to families, is following those rules that are in place. I've watched, 4 cars queuing up where they shouldn't be, slowing down an entire run. And then you have like a school bus coming up and doing a 3-point turn that just slows everything down. So there's those things that are happening as well that we got to make sure we improve upon.
Rolling drop-off, so the car doesn't actually stop all the way.
Yeah. So I thought, Michael especially isn't able to be here tonight, but he wanted to make sure that that we did discuss it before that went out. But we are going to be sending that out soon as a reminder. And again, as you know, we will work. If there's a way to make it work for everyone, we are absolutely going to do that first and foremost. But there is a chance that we may need to have a wait list.
I mean, and there could potentially be one bus that is not doing a drop-off, or again, finishes earlier at the elementary schools, that could maybe get over and do a first run and then do a later run or something. If worse came to worse, I would look at that.
Yeah, it's tight, and I would let Michael, but it's very tight to do that. And on the other end, you could do a late one, but then those kids are late every day, so you can't have that. So it is tricky, but I do think we will figure it out. But I do think there's going to be some growing pains with it.
Chris, I don't want to omit you because I don't see you there. Do you have any comments with that?
No, I mean, I agree with what's said. I think you guys are right to point out that we're making this change first and foremost for educational reasons, not because we prefer a different start time or it makes our lives easier. And as long as that's clear and consistent, then I think logically you have to say if we're making sure that we're busing kids that are legally required to be bused, and then anybody else has access to get a pass within a fair time frame can get it, and we're dealing with difficulties to people that don't choose to don't fit into either of those categories, then the educational value of changing the start time should have precedence. So I would agree, and changing start time should be the last possible. That should be because we can't make it work for the students that we're required to make it work for under any circumstance. That's it. And maybe we could chip in and buy Dr. Daly like a crossing guard uniform to wear in the mornings to help get traffic organized.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chris. We have talked about, what a crossing guard would need to be, what they could do, and it was clarified for me that, a crossing guard can't direct traffic, but a crossing guard can hold students back and, so hold the students back so that the traffic continues, which is different than sort of you go, stop, go. And
even at a crosswalk situation, they can say, you need to wait,
exactly.
Let a few more cars go. And then when they step up to the crosswalk, the traffic has to stop because that's the rules, but the crossing guard doesn't do that.
So even at at our school, we've got 3 crosswalks. We've got one right at the gymnasium. We've got one in the middle. On the days when we've really been out there enforcing everyone cross in the middle, it does free up some of the right-left turns. The other thing that people need to realize as well is that this year, because we don't have the ability to use the locker rooms, we've had kids coming and going, getting changed at home, getting dropped off again, and other kids that are coming back in from the parking lot, going out to their cars, coming back in to grab equipment and stuff. So that kind of traffic is not the same as a typical year. So there's a lot of variables this year. It's really hard to judge to say that, it's going to look a certain way. So we're hopeful that we'll make this work through a lot of our plans and ideas. We want to offer people some options for drop-off pickup, and we'll have more on that soon. So we're certainly going to be working hard on this over the summer and sharing that out. So thank you for that opportunity to update.
So that completes the second number 3 of the new business. We'll go back to the third number 3 after we go back to number 2 first. So
those 3, oh wow.
As far as the North Reading Education Association contract, we're going to pass over this generally, but I'll just say that we've been working and meeting with NREA. We essentially have a tentative agreement. There's 1 or 2 final provisions we're just cleaning up in there, and so we haven't had the time to finalize it. And we know that the NREA needs to vote on it, and so once that happens at our next meeting, we should be able to hopefully approve it, but we've been working with them and we're just about there. Okay, moving on. NRPS 2025.
3C, yeah.
Three, the third
I'm not
three.
sure how that one happened. So I just wanted to update everyone on something that I shared out last week. I think you may have seen it, but, and I alluded to it earlier. But as a part of our visioning process for this, we're looking to do where do we want to be in NRP, in 2025. And so it's called the Back to the Future protocol that all our administrators are going through, where you think about and you describe in the present tense, here's where we are in 2025. This is what it looks like, feels like, sounds like in our school. And then you go back to today and you say, here's what it looks like now in the present tense. And then our goal then is to how do we connect the dots between the two. And so as we were doing this with the administrative team in preparation for our retreat, it really just sort of clicked with me that these are questions that I need to ask of others as well. And so I thought I would have maybe some of the student council students, maybe a couple of teachers, maybe one or two parents that would be interested. We've had over 85 people have already completed the survey. So
Was I first?
you were not, but you were on there, and I appreciate that. So everyone is invited. I'm going to try to do a bit of a discussion. I feel that this also addressed a need in the community, just from the feedback I've seen. Some of what has been in the newspapers about what schools are doing, what they're not doing. I think there's been some of that conversation that I think people are just looking to be involved in. So I think this will be an opportunity to talk about what the schools are doing and what we should be doing moving forward, and also to clarify what we're not doing and what we shouldn't be doing. I think all those topics are important. I think there's a lot of opinions and conversations that need to be had. I think it'll be a healthy forum to do that and a good way to do that as well. And so we're going to run a session 9 to 11 in the morning for folks that works better for, and also one in the evening for folks that works better for. I want to get a lot of different voices. Again, it's not going to be everything that's discussed or presented is where we're going to go. Administrative leaders are still going to make decisions, but it's just going to be more informed. And I think that, from what I see in the early data, there's nothing there that we really haven't come up with, and there's nothing different, but it does reinforce some of the directions we're going. And there are some, I'll be honest with you, there was one in there that I was able to address immediately. It was, not only is it something that we should be looking about for the future, but my thought was, oh, this already is in place, and this is from a student, and I said the student needs to know that this is already in place for her safety. And so I went and addressed this with her, with Dr. O'Connell, and with the student yesterday to make sure that the student understood. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for bringing it up. But here's some options for you that exist right now. So it was great for me to experience that, and I'm looking forward to this process. So in addition to that, not just our leadership team, our administrative council, principals, directors, but our extended leadership team with assistant principals, and hopefully it's going to also include our extended leadership team of our curriculum leaders as well for a third day in August, so that we can have even more ownership and buy-in into our district vision. So.
Well, signed up as well. So, yeah. Well, probably won't say anything. I'll just listen.
Are you kidding me?
Now, general meetings, I just don't want to. I want to hear from the public.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do
these
some.
meetings don't shut up. So.
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of presentation, some breakout groups, and then there's like a Google form, so you get into some small groups. You fill out the protocol, and so my thought would be I would do one with everyone, and then here's the link. If you want to do more, and then the more that we have, the more that we bring back to the retreat this summer. So.
Well, I mean, with that in mind, if you need to use us for anything to run groups or whatever, please feel free. I mean, Janine mainly nominated her for that first, but anybody, if you need help on any of those things, happy to assist too.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to wrap my head around a little bit about how I'm going to do it with these numbers, but it's a good problem to have, so I'm excited.
Excellent. Moving on, we have no minutes. Guessing we have no budget update because we have no Mr. Connolly.
We do not, and that should be reflected there. So I think like I forwarded to you was
Oh, there was a budget update in the packet, but
yeah.
anything to say on the budget update? Or?
Not at this time. I think Michael wanted us to do this next time. So
Yeah.
I think when that got sent out, it was included.
Okay. And then staffing, any updates?
Not at this time.
Is there going to be, I don't want to bring anything up, but I mean, is there going to be an update on the middle school vice principal at a later meeting?
Yes, I can share that out.
I mean, I don't know if anything's official yet or if it's been done. But.
Yeah, no, I can officially communicate that out tonight, yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Olivetto was selected as the next principal of the middle school. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, excellent. And I would point out that it was an external search done.
Yep.
There were, how many candidates were there for the position?
I don't have that exact number. I did not review, but there were multiple interviews conducted, internal and external postings. Yeah, I can look it up right now, but I'm not.
No, just to point out, because whenever things go out, I think sometimes people understand that there was a process done, and so we appreciate Mrs. Olivetto, stepping up as the interim basis, and it's hard when somebody does a good job as an interim to tell them that they have to still apply and go through the whole process, and especially with external, but I'm happy to hear that she won the job at the end of the day. So congratulations to Mrs. Olivetto.
And I've been thinking about the external versus internal question, and this is just a general comment, no criticism or discussion about what we've done this year, but it seems to me that if you're doing a search, and you want to start with an internal search, see if I've got this right in my head. If there's only one candidate and you're okay, and because of the nature of the position, you would be okay with one internal candidate, and you would be okay with making that hire, assuming they also feel like they're qualified. That's fine, but if you feel like ahead of time that you're doing an internal search, but if there's only one candidate, then we'll do an external search, doesn't it feel like maybe you should just do an external search? Or do you feel like you always have to try to do that internal search? You understand what I'm saying?
I do. The problem is you don't know that there's only going to be one internal candidate. So
yeah, that's the problem. I guess
when we did the interim position, there were multiple internal candidates.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm saying, regardless of what you think might be the numbers.
Yeah.
Just thinking ahead, if you think, well, if there's only one, then I'll probably end up doing an external. Doesn't that kind of mean maybe you should be doing an external? It's just a general philosophy.
It's problematic because you don't want to say, well, I interviewed Diana, and I don't think you're good enough to hire you without talking to somebody else, but maybe I'll hire you after I talk to other people. Whereas, like, it was like, oh, Janine's good enough to hire without talking to anybody else, and that's the challenge that you run into, I think. I think, and I would go one step further and say, overall, especially with an entry-level position like a vice principal, I think we all see the value in promoting from within when they're qualified candidates. But with doing that, a vice principal is really the first level of the administration. So if any time there should be an external search, I would think it would be for some of the entry-level positions, because that's when you get people into it. And maybe it comes from teachers within, maybe it comes from other districts that are vice principals that want to come here. But even for other ones, I think that if they're a great candidate, they're going to, personally, I think that your experience in district, we already know a lot about you. That already should give you a pretty good advantage. And if that's not enough to win the position, then maybe it shouldn't be that position. And ultimately, I think it gives the candidate that gets the position a lot of, authority, because they were the best candidate selected, and it wasn't because you only limited it. That's why I was the best of the small group that you looked at. We're saying you were the best one of any candidate that we could find. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just right at the moment, it's just a theoretical discussion thing.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I hear those points. I think, in my experience, there are reasons to do different things. I think you get different types of internal candidates who apply when they know it's an internal-only search. So someone who is a classroom teacher looking to become an administrator for the first time, may not apply if they know it's an external search. And I think that discourages them from getting that experience. Now, not that you can't tell people you should still apply, but I think it's a different. So I think of the last two we've had, some of the candidates would not have applied if it was an external search, because they would have been going up against sitting principal, let's say for the bachelor principal position. So you have a sitting assistant principal going for a principal. We had some teachers that wanted to go for it to see what that looked like, and they just probably would not have happened, which is not always the best thing to do. And I think the interims are a little different than the permanents. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think, and I also think there's a little bit about your when you put it out there externally and then you keep hiring internally, then when you do go externally and you need someone externally because you don't have internals, you do have a bit of a reputation that you're just doing externals just to do them, and you keep promoting from within, as opposed to being a little more transparent about it, that we had an internal search. People see that, and then they see that didn't go well, or they're reposting it, and there's more of an opportunity. So I think there's a lot to be considered. I think it's an ongoing conversation.
And I apologize for
But I think-
disrailing the conversation.
No, I think it's a great conversation, and it's something I've thought a lot about. I also think, I have a lot of thoughts about the searches that we've led and what you see. And sometimes, like I mentioned, some people that are runners up for one position, by the time that next one rolls around, now they've had that experience under their belt and they're ready then to go to the next. So, overall, I think there's times and places where we need diversity in many different ways, the non-North Reading experience, I'll say. And there's other times when you really want to promote within and see those pieces come together. And there are young teachers now that are going to be great administrators in our district, that I want them to see that there's room to grow in our district as well, and not have to go elsewhere. So.
Well, congratulations to Oliveto. And
we'll have a more formal one next time. Yeah, I just wasn't able to get that in for tonight.
no, that's fine. I didn't want to jump ahead. I just didn't.
No, that was a good question.
Bids and donations, McGowan.
Yes, I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $1,000 from Chartwell's to be applied to student scholarships to benefit graduating seniors at the high school.
My second.
Second from Janine. She beats you, Chris. And any discussion? I'll just say, for people that don't know, Chartwell's runs the food service program, so it's very nice that they're giving back to our schools. Do a roll call vote. Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, 5-0, thank you.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $70 from the J.T. Hood School Parent Association to benefit the purchase of a trampoline at the Hood School.
I'll second.
Discussion here?
I do have a question. Is it one of the little round ones that you do in the gym, or is it the really big one with the net? And what is the liability of it, just out of curiosity?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure what was donated. I'm sorry. I can look into that and learn a little bit more.
We need to know. Okay.
Very well. Hold the thanks until.
Janine may vote no on this. We'll
Yeah,
go to the first
when I-
donation that we won't accept, but we'll.
No, I'll accept it. I just am curious about the trampoline.
Yeah, if it's a $70 covering it, it's going to be a small one for a specialized classroom. I'd imagine with that's probably what we're talking about here for students that need support. But I can look into that a little bit more.
It's so that the Hood mascot can do flips to the
Yeah,
basketball.
yeah.
I was thinking,
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of the big ones that you have outside. And
the other size where you.
to my knowledge, this would be a small classroom for individual support.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote. Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, passes 5-0.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude an in-kind donation of assorted thank you gifts for teacher appreciation for a long and difficult year, valued at $3,540, for the totaling 118 gifts, from the Kindness Exchange to benefit the North Reading High School. Is that a fundraising outfit, Kindness Exchange?
I believe it is. Yeah, I think it's something that we certainly appreciate and also want to revisit and make sure. I think some of it's due to COVID. It's very much appreciated. I think we do need to make sure we're having conversations with this group in the future to make sure that all the regulations around ethics and everything, I'm confident everything was followed this year, but we want to make sure we check in with them if this is to continue. It's quite a great gift, quite an amount, and we really appreciate all the great things they did. So.
Okay.
Okay. Motion, we got a second. Any discussion? Vote. Rich? Aye. Janine?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I as well, 5-0. Thank you very much. Bids and donations. Subcommittee updates are done. Administrative report, Dr. Daly.
Not at this time. I think I covered some of those things already.
Correspondence? Nothing.
Not at this time.
So, future business, tomorrow is graduation, so I don't know if you were here, Chris, when we said it, but it's arrive at 5:30, ideally. We're going to be lining up and doing the procession down, and graduation begins at 6. June 21st at 6:30 p.m. is the next meeting, school improvement plan. July 26th at 6:30 p.m. is superintendent's goals and school committee goals. Thursday, August 12th at 6:30 p.m. is the fall 2021 planning school committee goals meeting. I will try to figure out from Mrs. Staff whether we can have remote participation on June 21st. I think we should plan on still having a Google Meet for people that want to attend. The only thing that'll change is, Chris, you'll have to come in if it's in person, and we may have to allow the public in. That's what we have to just figure out. But I still think we want to allow this, and as I said, the open meeting law allows the chair to allow anything to be streamed live if we approve, and I approve, and I think that's a good thing to do. So I think there still will be a Google Meet for anybody that wants to follow along from home, but the question is whether we have to be here and whether anybody that wants to come in.
And the third part of that is, would they be allowed to participate?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's up to us and how we want to do it, and so I would say that we will absolutely still allow people to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But are the other two virtual then, the 26th and the 12th?
Yeah, again, I think
Now we don't know.
It would carry.
we don't know right now because
Yeah.
it expires on June 15th, but there was a proposed bill to push it back to, I think, September, which would mean that if that bill passes, we could do virtual over the summer. And, potentially, I would just say potentially, maybe not the June 21st one, but maybe the July and August one, we could, if it's allowed to be virtual, maybe we will all do virtual and not have to make everybody come into schools, but I don't know. We will see. But I will try to check with the staff tomorrow. Okay, thank you, everyone. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. I'll vote. Janine?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Good night.